You had Cambridge Analytica happening in 2018, and now you have all the news that you hear about other social networks. What they're ready to do, what they're willing to do to continue having engagement. And that frustration isn't getting less. It's only building up. And I don't believe that the news you're hearing today is the bottom. I mean, we're nowhere near the bottom.
I'm here with Ayman Hariri, the chief executive of the social network Vero. Vero is a place to share your favorite movies, music, books, photos, links, and crucially, because the business model is that it will eventually be based on a subscription, you don't see any adverts and your data is not passed on to advertisers. It was set up in 2015 and caused a real splash when it broke through 3 years later. So what has been happening since then? We wanted to talk to Ayman, who has now been at the helm for 6 years, about the journey that he has been on and his plans for the future of the network. So Ayman, before we get into the here and now, I just wanted to go back a little bit. Could you just tell us, what was the moment that led you to start Vero? Was there a particular catalyst?
It started with us wanting to create an online social experience that matched the real world social experience. People like to share private moments with their closest friends and more public moments with a bigger audience. We wanted to create a platform that lets you share whatever you wanted with whoever you wanted. And online social allows you to do that on a more bigger scale. But you're not always ready to share everything with everybody. And so we wanted to create that idea of being able to be yourself online as much as you are in the real world.
Now, if I had £1 for every Instagram killer that I'd come across in my career, I'd be a very rich man. So what was it about the Vero idea, the Vero USP, that you thought really gave it a shot against the big incumbents?
I don't think of it as software and as a packaging of an app that you download onto your phone. I think it has to do with the approach. We don't differentiate ourselves purely on features because that's a losing battle. I think the way we've approached things and we've built a culture around Vero is this idea that we respect our users. We think about them before we think about ourselves, what's good for us as a platform. And we go the extra mile to be able to serve that purpose. That's why we've been able to, I think, attract artists, creators, people in this world who are more inclined to be more sensitive to what's going on.
And what's the metric by which you'll judge whether the business has been a success or fulfilled its potential? Do you have a particular profit or user target you want to hit by a certain year?
The first metric is to be a self-sustaining business, to turn on subscription, have revenues that allows the business to exist and thrive by itself without the need for someone like myself to continue investing in it. I will continue doing so until we get to that point. And then, the second will be, have we created a positive environment for people to be able to thrive as they do in the real world, online, and have a positive experience in a sustainable fashion.
So there was a big moment in 2018 when Vero really caught the popular imagination and was getting a lot of attention from the big tech websites. And I gather that downloads mushroomed pretty quickly from about 150,000 to about 3 million. What spurred all that? What was the main factor behind that?
I think it has to do mostly with a culmination of things. I believe that the world does want to have an alternative, but it wants to have an alternative that it can rely on being on certainly features and things that they're used to having plays a big part of that. But I believe that there is a pent-up frustration with the other social networks. And you had Cambridge Analytica happening in 2018, and now you have all the news that you hear about other social networks and what they're ready to do, what they're willing to do to continue having engagement. And that frustration isn't getting less. It's only building up. And I don't believe that the news you're hearing today is the bottom. I mean, we're nowhere near the bottom.
So what's coming up in the short term for Vero? In the next year or so, are there particular things that we can expect to see that you can talk about?
Subscription is one, just a lot of work with creators, coming up with innovative ways for them to do well on Vero. It's not easy to find each other on a platform that has no algorithm, so we've come up with ways that are very transparent on how you can be found and how you can find others who enjoy similar things. So that's all coming in 2022.
I wonder if we could just talk a bit more about you, Ayman, because not everybody gets up one day and decides to start a social network, and I'd be interested to just dig a bit more into where you're coming from as a businessman and a person. I mean, your father, Rafiq Hariri, was a very high-profile man, self-made billionaire, Prime Minister of Lebanon. Did you learn anything from him that you think has, really shaped how you operate today?
Yeah, I would say I've learned the majority of what I know I've learned from him, and obviously we learn from our experiences. A lot of people don't know this, but he had created a foundation that he funded that put 30,000 students through university. And he did that in order to not lose a generation to the war in Lebanon. I would say there are lots of things that I've learned from my father, whether it's being optimistic, believing in people. The humility that I saw in him, I try to learn from, and always remember that it doesn't matter what you have, and it doesn't matter what you think you've created. You must always remember that we need each other. We can't do things alone. It doesn't matter what vision you may have. If you don't put people around you that can help you get there, you can't get there by yourself.
So in the wake of your father's death, you stepped in to run Saudi Oje, which I imagine was quite a baptism of fire, big job, big responsibility. How was the Ayman Hariri who ran that business different from the Ayman Hariri who runs Vero today? How have you changed as a businessman?
Yeah, like you said, it was a baptism of fire. Being part of Saudi Oje was a great learning experience for me. I actually, so if I wanted to do anything my father asked me to do. He was my hero, still is. I certainly never wanted to say no to him at anything that he wanted me to do. But leaving or coming out of college and going straight into the family business wasn't something I wanted to do. I wanted to pursue my tech dreams, let's say, or my dreams of being in technology and building some consumer product. I knew I wanted to do that. I didn't know what it was, but I wanted to pursue that. And it was the subject of many conversations between me and him, because he felt like he built a family business that he wanted his children to be a part of. But when he passed, I felt an enormous amount of responsibility towards the people that viewed him also as their father in an indirect way, and they had lost everything. They felt in that moment that they had lost all hope. And if I didn't step in to help, I didn't step in to take on responsibilities in Saudi Oje. That wasn't my first thought. That isn't how I function. I don't think about taking over, or that isn't just, it's just not how I'm built. The way I think is, can I add value here? And I felt like there was a need for us to be involved, regardless of what it meant at the end, what title, what position, what responsibility.
So I've got a few final questions for you. The first is, would you ever go into politics yourself?
No, I'm not interested in politics. Politics it's a messy world. I've seen how complicated it is, with respect to my brother, how it was for my father. He didn't want us to be in politics. I mean, the only reason that my brother went into politics was because of my father's assassination. but I'm not interested in politics. I'm more interested in business and helping the country or the world in any way that I can as a person.
Now, you famously have a huge passion for superheroes. I mean, you have one of the premier comic book collections in the world, and you're close to Zack Snyder, and you're involved in the Snyder Cut, and all of that. And I'd be interested to know where that came from and why you think it's remained such an enduring interest for you.
I think I started getting into comic books and superheroes like any kid. Your imagination is really captured by just these amazing stories. Any kid is interested in being able to fly or having powers that let you, have strength or intelligence or just being able to do superhuman things. But as I grew older, I felt like what keeps me drawn to them is that decision of having powers and doing good with them. My father was my hero and is still my hero, and it really has to do with what he decided to do when he became successful, and that was to help people.
Wonderful. Well, Ayman, thank you very much for your time. It's been great talking to you, and I wish you all the best with everything you've got planned for the coming year.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and it's been great talking.